The distant man developed centuries ago to discover what he was. Today, we've caught up with him by the aid of technology and can duplicate all his phenomena, only with one problem. The technician can't do it inside of himself. He has to look through a piece of machinery. And the Eastern man can sit down, close his eyes, and describe the facts of the geometry inside of his body. That's the problem. We can close our eyes and see the actual geometry, describe it and draw it, and let the technician spend years of building the equipment to validate it if he's a liar or telling the truth. Then the technician sits down now and says, how can I duplicate what you're doing? And we say it's very simple. First, let's understand the word that we're talking about, then we can duplicate the process. Most people spell meditation this way, right? I see you guys over here too. But these doggone Orientals are so weird. They have their word puzzles and they hide their physics, and today we call them now the Eastern CIA. So what they were doing was the same thing we do today now with code. But when the student shows up, they always say, practice meditation, practice meditation. And the student never finds out what the heck it's all about, and he gets lost. In the meantime, the teacher goes about being very practical day to day, till one day when the student is good and fed up and challenges the teacher, even to the point of violence, then the teacher would laugh and give him a little touch on the nose and turn him on. Then he finds out what the whole science is all about. It so happens that English is an unusual language that we can hide our entire science in an anagram. That is a word made up of the first letters of many words. And for centuries we pulled it off until some jerk like me discovered it. And now we know, we live in the West, we can work with it and use it. Meditation is not sit down and close your eyes. That is what they tried to make us do, to get us not to bother them, both the male or the female master of it. And they're not your master, they'll tell you that, but you don't realize it, and you build up a lot of ideas about the person. And they're only telling you, in simple language, master yourself. But that's how they say it. But then you listen carefully after a while, and you hear they're saying, master yourselves. Well, you say, master, what do you mean, master yourselves? Oh, shut up. Go on, sit down and meditate. Now you come back and you ponder, master myself, master myself. But I'm a self. I'm looking for self-realization, right? I'm supposed to be the identity of God. Isn't that what I'm looking for? All these nice fancy words. And then once in a while they throw this hint at you. Oh, shut up and look at your skin, observe it. Think of Omar Khayyam. You know that fella? I myself am heaven and hell. But then he finds out I myself is the heaven and the held. Not H-E-L-L, H-E-L-D and H-A-V-E-N, the storage of the electrons in the form of minerals in your body, producing an unusual phenomenon. And you walk around totally oblivious of what you are. Then you read everything and says, oh, your body is the what? Of God. Temple of God? Sounds familiar? Build me a temple that I may do what? breathe inside of it, walk inside of it, or live inside of it. Interesting, huh? Sounds familiar. But then when you start getting to the nitty-gritty of it, you're questioning now, really, what is this thing called meditation that these people are talking about? The M, most of us would associate with mind over matter. Whenever you think of the East, you always think of what? Mind over matter, right? And you're working to get there. And I ask you, show me 1 milligram of mind. Can you show me to me? And if you cut over the best carcass or cadaver, you can't find a milligram of mind. Well, they say, oh, it's gone with the breath. When you stop breathing, the mind is gone. Nice thing. But the brain will be there, capable of making various constrictions and dilations known as accelerations, and produce strange phenomena for it to talk through the mouth, move the body, and they say you're very smart or you're stupid. But they say your mind is doing it for you. Interesting, huh? Then when you fell asleep last night, everybody in this room know when you were sound asleep last night? Good. Real sound asleep. Did you know if you're a man or a woman? Now if somebody unplugged your nose, what happened? Take it down. You're unplugged now, you know, like this thing here. That's how precarious our existence is. And we work every day very hard for that piece of covering to be over us at night when we sound asleep so that the rain don't wet us and give us pneumonia. Facts of life. What's going on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all over the planet. And we still live with the illusion we go meditate and go find God. But picture yourself as God. Would you sit down and wait for dead people? After you create a universe? Would you want to be close by harassing them when they're alive? Playing the role of a devil? Good. I love it. Best friend I got. But that's what this principle is doing. But it's giving us the freedom, that's what's so beautiful, to be individual, unique to itself, to pursue the charades. They call it a maya, or illusion, or relativity. In order to discover you have a right brain and a left brain, and which one wins? One day it's the right side winning, next day the left side is winning. And between the two is your nose. And if you don't breathe, they're going to bury you back in the soil and start you all over again. So they guess what, dust you are, dust you go back. And dust is it. But it takes a while for us to break through, and we can break through to get to the facts of what it is. And then we can benefit from it. But in a strange way, the process, and not a goal, has no intention for a mass exodus. This is a very individualistic process. Each one carries his own cross or horoscope or load. You live your time frame. So you can't pick up Brother Jesus' cross. You can tell you don't pick up mine. Pick up your own one. And his cross was his horoscope. If you ever study astrology, you'll see he deserved what he got. But he was pleased with it. And you deserve what you got just as much as I deserve what I got. Because that's the time frame I live in, and that's what I have to work with. But to run from it, to evade it, is not valid. To muddle my way through it. And if I stick it out, I may reap the reward that they talk about. But that's up to me and you, muddling your way through it. Now, if you knew everything before you start, would you come here? Good. Love you. You see, that's where it's so beautiful. We come here totally turned down, not turned off. We're all turned up already, knowing fully what the universe is. The blueprint is in us. But we aren't turned up to recognize it. We're turned down not to recognize it. So we muddle our way through it, giving us the feeling that we are making great accomplishments, great contributions, all for the glory of God. But he's smart. He doesn't want no mass exodus. He wants individualistic, like spokes in the wheel. Each spoke rings out its own valve. Each person carry their own true self. There's no bad person here. Some pick some lousy roles, or were given lousy roles. And some has got some good roles, but that's not the point. The point is if they can go through it, regardless of how it turns out. You know, sometimes you look at your parents and you think they're pretty bad. And then when they go up to the top side and they meet Daddy-o, and Daddy says, well, hi kids, how do you like playing lousy parents? So when the kids come up, man, we had the worst parents. What do you mean worst parents? They chose their role. You chose to be a little bit. I gave you all the roles played. So we begin to see now why the Eastern man wanted to understand what he was. So he worked out a process and hid it for many centuries in a word called meditation. The first M is inferring mental, because we think of the mind having such great power over matter, the objects that we see and relate to. And the highest label we can give it in modern technology is a placebo effect. It bugs us as scientists, why should a placebo work? Certain minerals will stop a certain symptom. That's valid. You can always do it. But why should another mineral, totally nothing more than a table salt, put in the child's mouth and it stops the symptom? If you work with it, you'll know. I have to work with it many times, where I take a simple lozenge, put it in the child's mouth and tell him it's an aspirin, because he wanted an aspirin so desperately from the mother and the parents, he didn't want to slow down. And we finally gave him a lozenge. He slept all through the trip till the next day, and he was a very happy kid. Now you see a placebo effect. The parents were aware of all these laws and they understood what we were doing. And so when we look at ourselves more objectively, it's not who we are, it's what we are. So our first real involvement as mental or mind operating with energy. In the Eastern tradition, they may use all type of terminology. Today we may say love and spirit. Love is the mental principle. It attracts, it repels, so they may end up calling love magnetism. We don't like it because it doesn't give dignity. But like it or not, we're stuck with a cosmic magnetism that runs the show. And we know it's Big Daddy-o. That's the personality function, the intimacy. That's why Jesus called it Father. Other religions call it different names, impersonal, self, and different things. But giving it a sense of intimacy, a sense of integral personality, Father, Mother, is all we have left to relate to. It is neither mother nor father, but have all the qualities of mother and father locked up in it. So when Saint Teresa wanted to see God, she saw Jesus, and she says, "No, you're Jesus, you're not God." And then he disappeared, and she saw herself looking at herself. He says, "Oh no, I don't want to. Give me back my Jesus." When the real God appeared, big blast light, "No, I don't want to." Then she saw her own reflected nature of the atoms. She said, "No, give me back my Jesus." So the mind energy is the magnetic field permeating us, and it is directing what it's directing is a unique function. This unique function is why all of us hate one another and hate each ourselves. We were created without our consent. Did any one of you give consent to be created? Huh? Did you give consent to be created? So you're going to be pretty angry as an element put together to look as a male or female without your consent to come what? Play this charade of a game here to satisfy who? A creative principle? A blueprint makeup? So if this principle who puts us together without our consent must compensate in some form, but he's holding the compensation, and my assistant will say she's holding the compensation. This principle holds the compensation in reserve to where we, the individualized form, get good and angry at the creative process to shake our fist and even want to destroy the cellular shape before the compensation is made known. So it's called grace. You made it by the skin of your nose. Sounds familiar? But that's the name of the game. You must be put into jeopardy from the internal structure to be tested to see if you got the quality of the architect. The architect who designs it must have quality and must have testing qualities. So therefore you can realize you couldn't make anything around you and not test it for its quality, because you're a blueprint makeup of the same process. You will do everything to the highest caliber and the lowest caliber, all inside of you, simply because you're a Xerox copy. There's no bad person or good person. We're all equal when we sound asleep if we don't wake up. The rich man is poor if you don't wake up. And the poor man is rich when he don't wake up either. Whatever your dream is when you go to sleep and you don't wake up, see? So it's very, very close to your mechanism, so you got to look at it objectively and evaluate. This mental energy is directing your individuality. Because you're an individual. You're unique. You're selected without your consent. But you don't know you have an Oscar waiting for you. If you knew you had an Oscar waiting for you, you'd jump in the blueprint right away. But then that would be no good because everybody already know the end of the movie. But since you don't know that, you're going to play the role of, oh, me, why me, oh, and that's valid because that's what's necessary. Good drama. I love God when he plays the role of the director, not the producer. Anybody can be producer, put up the money. It's the director who gets the best out of us. We call him Brother Natus, otherwise known as Satan. That's the same Big Daddy you're pulling off. But it has to be that way, otherwise it won't work. We would not reached the full value of other brothers and sisters who have reached it, and they live in the world and to demonstrate it, because we take courage from their behavior. They're the models. But what is it directing in our individuality? The most important condition that you and I have is thinking. Otherwise known as thoughts. Modern day technology, we call it programming. We caught up with it. The program is set up in you, and that plays the replay when you press the button, right? Good. So we know what we're talking about now, and we say this internal electrical force field called Spirit or God is directing our thinking activity, or actions. So Brother Jesus would say in his way, I of myself, or I of myself, can do nothing. But the Father in me, that's the creative life energy, entering in and out of the body in the form of oxygen. You know, if you don't breathe, they bury you. Does everything for you. With the best intellect and the best organs in the body and no oxygen going in and out, what do you do with the person? Well, that's what Mr. Einstein standing right behind there would like. He's right there looking at us, but he can't enter because he don't have a body. He envied all of us in this room for breathing. But he did his role. He's there in the atomic field. We remember him because we relate to him geometrically. And we keep that geometry in our own time frame, mind frame. So he appears periodically to those who can focus. But to Mr. Einstein, in the individualized memory bank, is nothing but a unified field. He himself will tell you, energy equal mass times velocity light squared. I am nowhere but everywhere. I'm outside, inside of you, but you don't understand, so learn to appreciate the inner nature of yourself. But until he takes another body, he'll be looking at us from the unified field. And if we are fortunate to focus the lenses of our mechanism, we can see the invisible world 24 hours a day, like an electron microscope. But we caught up with the invisible world with the electron microscope and the X-ray machines. A lot of us can look through it and see the objects in there. But the one person who can close his eyes and see it and describe it before it was designed, he's unique. That's what we're interested in now. Can we sit down and look inside? And what is it doing? This energy that is directing our individual thinking activity is to transform. What it wants to transform, our individuality to an intuitive function, that is to know directly from within, devoid of the senses, independent of the senses, independent of the intellect. And to know is to be conscious. And that's where your level of understanding begins to come to the surface. Because without that, Brother Paul will say, you can keep your miracles, give me understanding any day. And he'll walk around and say, I live and die daily in the Lord. And he also wanted to go be a tent maker to make his livelihood. The Roman government didn't want self-employed people. So they got rid of him. The church has his body, it don't rot, and the Roman government is gone down the drain. In the meantime, we're discovering this fantastic science hidden in words today, and we're realizing we have it. We have to learn how to apply it. What is it transforming? It's transforming our individuality to an intuitive control, meaning a control that is independent of the senses. So they call it your sixth sense. Do you have a sixth sense, or you have five senses working in unison for the first time called intuition? That's right. That's what you got. You don't have no sixth sense. Pussycat don't even have it either. Well, he's smart. He knows how to work his. We also have the same principle locked up in us, but we just don't know how to turn it on. That's all. And as soon as we learn to turn it on, then you know your friends call you weirdo. Right? Exactly. You're familiar, right? So that's exactly what's happening. But what is it leading us to? It's leading us to be independent of the senses for a dual function. That's what meditation has to offer. A dual function. One, to observe, and finally to be one with it. So it's a oneness. Observation and oneness. But with what? That's the question. And that's the last letter that blows our cool. In the Eastern tradition they call it nirvana. Big N, you know? As I've arrived at nirvana, big deal, what's that? What do you mean? Come on, tell me what. Can't explain it, there's no words. So somebody says, oh, you're horny. Oh, that's a funny joke. If you panic and you fall asleep, two things happen to you. You fall asleep, and next morning you wake up horny all over again, don't know what the heck to do with it. And every patient in hospital, you'll see it, they go through it, this funny phenomenon of panic, shut down, wake up and quivering. And they're saying, what is this? What am I here for? And the Greek will say, brother or sister, you arrive at the true love of God, agape. Agape, what's that? Well, do you want the other one? What's the other one? Eros. Oh no, that's erotic. Well, naturally you're going to erode if you go down too far with it. So appreciate what you got. That the principle here is showing you what you are in terms of the last in noumena, not phenomena. The actual you. That's the existence that they refer to in the Eastern tradition. They use a Sanskrit word called sat. And it's a past tense for sit. And sat. And that's existence. And chit is consciousness. If you exist, you have to be conscious. That doesn't say you got to be smart. So if you do exist, you got to breathe. That's what they're trying to tell us in simple language. And if you do breathe, if you exist, you're going to be yawning or laughing or doing some stupid thing. They call it ecstasy or bliss. You're blissed out. The mere fact that you took your deep breath and the cord was cut and you let out a big yell, they tell us you're alive. Now, if you live in the country where I came from, where they throw you in the water to find out if you float, after you cut the cord, and if you float, they keep you. If you don't float, they let you stay there because you're no good to them. You're not going to survive the jungle life. And in the jungle, every man has to make it on his own, because your brother and sister is not going to be there when some little alligator or piranha chase you down the river. You better know how to swim. So life isn't all what we see. It's only we have to come to confront it. The noumena is the actual now. You are and I am in the actual now. But there are no losers born. Only winners can be born. The sperm that got to the ovum is a winner. Right or wrong? Good. And the cord, when it's cut and you breed, they keep you and you are a winner. And shake hands with the lousy winners all around you and the best ones too. See what I mean? Everybody around in the room is winner. But that's the noumena, that's the fact. And it's in this structure we are told that we will discover this process. And so many teachers come along and say, seek ye first the kingdom of God which is within you, and its righteousness, and it will free you, free men all, Lord of yourself. In those days, a lot of us were searching for that statement. Today we know it's not philosophy, it's physics they're talking. But they hid it in certain words that left us searching for philosophy. Until the actual science came about, we didn't have a chance to work with it. Then the thresholds open up for us and you can work with it. Mental energy directing individual thinking activity, transforming your intuitive nature into a state of oneness, observation and oneness with noumena. And that's the actual process of meditation. It's not a goal. It could be put in today's language as the original bioplasmic TV set at night for the people that live in the East when the sun went down at 6 o'clock. They didn't have anything to entertain themselves in those days because no TV was in those days, so they tell the kids, oh, go on, close your eyes, look inside, and enjoy the light. And if you didn't want to learn how to enjoy it, hit you on the head and you're like Popeye. And you really enjoy the biological TV set. And you come out and say, Mama, last night I saw a wonderful, yeah, dried up. But, oh, that's the chakras, right? So now we're not criticizing all these things, we're just showing what they went through. Today, with the advent of technical knowledge, we're validating a lot of this data. But we're not validating in the sense that we're getting smarter than the other person. We're validating it in the sense that it teaches us how to live a healthier life and correct the problems we generated in our mechanism so that they don't come back to us through lack of understanding and knowledge. So the more we can understand what is going on in the body, both from a direct observation and a technical validation, we can have a healthier mechanism to work with. Now, the mechanism is designed for space travel, not on board some craft. Brother Jesus is not on board any craft. Kabir is not on board any craft. Those guys, all of them are traveling in space. They call themselves time travelers. Not leaving your body and coming back in it. Time travel, that's your body going with you. So don't confuse outer body experience with time travel. But they left us enough data here to know we're missing the boat, and if we don't catch up with it, we're going to blow ourselves apart through our ignorance. And the meditation science is not some escape from the world. It is your opportunity to validate for yourself what you are inside of yourselves, inside of yourselves. You can validate it and be free men, women, Lord of yourselves. But it's a science that is set up as a process to go through. And if you're looking for the technique, it's been given to you, but you don't recognize it, you know. That's so funny about the whole thing. Many of us searched all over and paid a lot of money for the technique, only to find out the technique was already handed to us a long time ago. When the eyes, you see plural, not single, are single. Now, how are you going to make your eyes single? Unless you close them, right? Yeah? Good. But don't fall asleep. That's the only thing Brother Jesus is going to be angry at you. He ain't angry at you for any immoral behavior or anything, because he wouldn't take the stone and throw it either. But he's going to be angry if you fall asleep on the job, because he told his own students, you couldn't pray a while with me. They all fell asleep, right? Now, the one thing, you can't love God with all your mind and fall asleep. Not possible. You break the very first rule of the game. So it's not pleasing somebody or displeasing somebody. Is you have to come to grips with your mechanism between a sleep state, awake state, and a death state. Death is the greatest sleep, where they bury you. Sleep is where they keep you if you snore. And wake is wake because everybody knows you want to eat. So this is what we're looking at, some basic facts of what we got. So anytime you go and break the commandment of loving God or creative life is only when you fall asleep on the job. You couldn't break the commandment no matter how well you try. Because it's not possible. Oxygen is in your nostril, in your body, providing this condition for you to be conscious. And if it doesn't come in when they cut the cord, you can't be conscious. That's the facts. Every doctor knows it, and every mother knows that. She say, sorry miss, the baby didn't breathe. Can't call it a human being, it's got to call it a fetus. The fetus refused to breathe. We tried every modern device to stimulate it, but won't hold. It's like a carburetor out of time. You know, any car that you bought and the carburetor is out of time, don't you get angry? Kick the heck out of it. Call the mechanic, and then you got to come and try and poke around and play with it. It's right here. After they cut the cord, if it don't synchronize on time, try again. And so, try again is valid. To him that overcometh, I will not send forth a second time. I will make him a pillar in the house of the Lord. Overcome what? They never tell you that. But we build up all kinds of illusions what you have to overcome till we find out what you have to overcome, and it blows you cool. You have to overcome not being unconscious. And that means don't fall asleep on the job. And if you don't fall asleep on the job, you don't go forth a second time. This may be my 100 and billionth second time, I don't know, but point is, if I understand in the form I'm in, it's my opportunity to make it work. And to make a pillar in the house of the Lord, a pillar is a fixture. This universe is a house, and for this to be a fixture, it has three choices. Rot, don't rot, or be visible or invisible at will and you can't photograph it. Competition with Dracula. Dracula is not bad. He's just letting you realize what you got inside of you. the invisible range of non-recording of the atomic structure of your own mass. There are a lot of people on this planet walking around that can't be photographed. But they're not dead. Anybody who read the autobiography of a yogi? Good. There was one guy who freaked out his wife. She wanted lots of money to take care of the place, and when he couldn't answer her, he suddenly disappeared and floated away in the roof. That really freaked her out then. Then he told her later on, you get taken care of. In the meantime, enjoy. There are a lot of people like that, but they don't go boasting about it. Now, if it was only Orientals, I'd say that's not practical or valid. There are many Caucasians, Africans doing it, but they don't go boast about it. Every nationality on the planet has done it already, but they don't boast about it. And they are the true sons or daughters of God. Not the ones that are dead and are not rotting. They prove to us that the principle is there. They validate the caterpillar becoming a butterfly. You never find a rotten butterfly, right? But you find rotten caterpillars. Good. They validated that. There is a book you can buy now. It's called The Incorruptibles. Over 360 case histories, and most of it are women, not men. So there's no macho in this whole game. It's the facts of physics involved where we all learn to recognize what we are. But we're on the threshold going from belief to understanding. We could falter and drop back into belief without knowing. And to believe and not know leads to superstition. But when you know and you understand, you have freedom. Meditation was a science developed centuries ago to teach us to free ourselves. And the technique was very simple. When the eyes are single, the whole body is full of light, so you could call it a biological TV set. And the light is shining in the darkness. That's the 144 elements in your body in a state of ignition, never gonna go off. It's ion, not I am. I am that ion, not I am that I off. Moses thought he heard I am that I am, but what he heard was I am that I am. But he can't go tell nobody that. Nobody believes. What the heck you talking about? A God is a light? Give us some better name. So his own creative consciousness gave him a nice word for him to tell them. Tell them Jehovah sent you. When you break the word down, we find it breaks down into 4 letters. Take away the periods of between the letters, what you get? ID. Now in English, that would be very hard to accept. In Hebrew, Jehovah sent you, fine. Mr. Freud came along and took advantage of these 2 words. These 2 letters. You know that one? And he centered his whole thinking as to your behavior and existence on an id. What is an id? An idea, or the root of an idea. You see? So the more you get into the mental energy level and the internal directing process of your thinking, you're going to go right back to the cosmos surrounding you as a creative idea held together by sonics. So they say in the beginning, or in the id, the idea, was the word or the sound waves, sonics, resonance, harmonics. And the word was with God. That's these sound waves are present in the creative intelligence. And the word was God. So sonics is creative intelligence, is geometry. And everything you see around you is held together by sonics. And was made flesh. Very hard to come by. Not flesh. Not flesh. Chickens got it. Or we got what? Something better than a chicken, though we made it the same flesh. And that something is, it dwells in man. It don't dwell in the donkey, it don't dwell in the chicken. That sonic principle is only dwelling in this form. You hear it, you don't see it, but it kind of puzzles you. What the heck is coming out of that guy's mouth? And today we know that if you pitch your voice at a certain frequency, it can cause this object to break. By the same token, if you pitch the voice at another frequency, it can cause certain objects to come together, to take shape. We've gone that far in validating what ancient man has been trying to tell us of what we are. Sound waves hold geometry of every form of matter and continue to hold it in that geometry as long as those frequencies are sustained around it. And when those frequencies stop, the geometry separates, and the particles that make the geometry will still be there, but they won't stop constricting and dilating. But they will never take geometry, but they'll keep their individuality as particles of matter. That's facts. The microscope, the telescope, has validated beyond all doubt that the early church writers knew what they were talking about. We now are left to wonder, can we practically use this principle or be lost in it? And we have the choice. The choice is right here. To observe from inside of ourselves what we are and then become one with it. And in the oneness, it's not phenomena, it's noumena, actuality, real living cell, living soil. It's kind of preposterous to ask your body to save your soul if your body has a soul when you're born. Isn't that kind of funny? You're born and you have living soul coming into you out of your body, and you go through all life trying to say you're working desperately to save your soul. Is that what we've been programmed to? Well, in actuality, our soul, if it's really revealed to what it is, can save this body from its ignorance and stupidity and transform it to its highest value. And those who have done it already have come on the planet, demonstrated with their lives, and left the technique to us. Today we are waking up to it, that if we don't do something, we're going to miss the boat. And we can't blame nobody for that. We have the facts around us now, technical and biological from within, and we have the technique given to us already. It's up to us to use it. So meditation is not some type of a sit in the corner and close your eyes. It's an active process going on inside of your body 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you ask me, do I meditate, I couldn't tell you yes, and I couldn't tell you no, and I'll have to tell you maybe. Because living now, breathing consciously is meditation. But being aware of what I am in my conscious makeup makes all the difference between practicing meditation and living meditation. We usually start off practicing it. And that is to sit in a corner, close our eyes, and try to look inside. But how many of us can close our eyes, look inside, and stay at least a minimum that is required in order to master it, 15 minutes, without wandering away to some nebulous idea? Years ago, before they made me a Swami, Swami is not a person who learns books, you know. Most people think there's some Joe guy got to read a pile of books to be a Swami. There are a lot of people can pass themselves, but the genuine Swami, when you meet him, he either passed the grade that another genuine Swami knows him from across the globe and will come and give him the identification ticket. Years ago, I met a great teacher, and I asked him, where can I buy 100 books on God? You know what he said to me in a letter? What is all the knowledge in all the books in comparison to 15 minutes silence in the soil? I thought he meant S-O-U-L, but I didn't look carefully at the print. It's S-O-I-L. After I went back years after, when I fell off a building and mashed up my body, broke it all up and died on the operating table. Then I realized what he meant. He wanted me to understand a death experience was the only way I'm going to come in contact with the truth, and all the books in the world are not going to give it to me. So 15 minutes silence, I went through it. The first 7.5 minutes, I was a #1 labeled schizophrenic. You know? A schizophrenic is a person who thinks he can step in front of a car and stop it, only to be run over and buried next day. But the first 7.5 minutes of the internal process make you have every illusion about yourself. The next 7.5 minutes, you hear writers and read about them who tell you they went through the night of the soul. Sounds familiar statement? Night of the soul? Most of us know what a nightmare is, right? You ever had a nightmare? Wait till you get a night stallion. You wouldn't want to hang around too long. I'm not joking, because I had to go through it myself. There's a big difference between a nightmare and a night stallion. 7.5 minutes of total blank. And everything is black in there, blank. And your brain don't function. And your body don't respond. And you ain't going a single place other than sitting there. If you do move, you don't even know you're moving. But you're going through it. It's if you make the next minute past the 15 minutes, so you got 7.5 minutes to be a schizophrenic, and 7.5 minutes in the obliviousness of your cells. And then the next minute, you're going to live the most unusual phenomena. Most people call it a death experience. You may see a tunnel. Along this tunnel of light, you may see somebody standing there. You may recognize it and telling you to go back. Or may accept you, but you're never going to wake up. If you go back, you're going to run back to tell everybody, clean up your act. But if you're like me, hard-headed and don't want to believe a doggone thing worse than Thomas, I want to find out who the heck are you? Or what the hell am I doing in this tunnel? What does it represent? And then when you do find out, you may appreciate what you got. and the journey inside is. There are no pearly gates waiting for anybody. But if you do go through the pearly gates, which I had to push because I'm a hard-headed son of a gun, on the other side of the wall of the pearly gates are all the oyster shells waiting from where the pearls came out from, to be cleaned up. So you can imagine the illusion of pearly gates in a fixation in your brain, never thinking where pearls come from. Then if you go into hell, because some jerk is staying there to pitch you with a pitchfork and play with you, like a Tootsie Roll or something, and you push through with your mind frame, you'll see on the other side of the gate all the lumber cut up, laying to be stacked out there to keep the gate burning. Ain't nobody on the other side but your own fixation. And then you look back at yourself and say, wait a minute. Then you're here in a strange way inside of yourself saying, breed. Breed? What's that? And then if you're lucky to see the realized masters all standing, or your brothers and sisters there all around you, in the tree leaves and everything is looking, the leaf of the tree is laughing at you like hell. Or rose petal is laughing, ha ha ha, you fool you. Where you think you are? You're right with us now, we got you. And they're all saying, breed. Breed? What do you mean breed? Well, we ain't going to breed for you, man. We'll let you be born again if you want. That's a nice fetus down there waiting for you. But if you want to breed and start carrying on with your body, breed. You relive the memory of the breath, and you relive another memory. The journey of the sperm to the ovum, and where the ovum grab a hold of your head and put you together. You see, the sperm doesn't bite the ovum. The electron microscope finally proved it. Lockdown. Ovum 149, calling sperm 149, come in sperm 149. And 149 sperm is the winner. 148 is no winner, and 150 ain't no winner. But all the rest lay down their life for you to be a winner. No greater love than he would lay down his life for his fellow man occurs in the spermal run. Sounds funny, but it's facts. And when you live it, two things happen. In a split second, your head goes into a 4th of July. You know what 4th of July is? 24 hours a day is possible. For some people, it's just a few hours, a few minutes, and then it stops. It's when it stays 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, then you know you're freaking out. But whoever is in that state, wherever they are, they know you're in there. And that state is called Swami, master of self, not self. But I went through this in 1955. Never said nothing much to anybody. In 1970, there was a man who is the head of the Swami order in India, who we consider like a pope, and he came to this country. I was supposed to meet him at 3 o'clock on the plane in Dallas, Texas. I couldn't go at the time. I had to wait for 7 o'clock where he was going to talk at the night. And so when at 7 o'clock I was there to meet him, I'm standing against the wall like this, and the hall in the university was that big, over 300 people. And he came to the door and he looked all over. And then he watched me and he started walking towards me. And he came right up and he looked at me straight in the eyes and he said, I'm going to make you a Swami right now. My ex-wife said, what the hell that makes me now? Nothing? So he says, no, I make you something. Then he performed the ceremony. I was made a Swami. Then someone asked him, how do you make people Swamis? And then he said, if he had not lived the journey within the cellular structure, he couldn't be made, and I would not have known. We all know each other, whoever makes the journey, because that's the first step in. The next step, they call them different names. But He then told us later how he became a Swami. When he was 14 years of age, he was initiated by his teacher. His teacher was 45 at the time. He grew up, he joined Mahatma Gandhi, fought the British for freedom, and went to prison, did a lot of horrible acts to his body for the wars, and finally he came out liberated and had the country free. He was a newspaper, he made his own business, and then he decided to retire at 65. And he went back to see his spiritual teacher. Well, to his amazement, his teacher was living in a cave. And when he got there, when he walked in, he saw his teacher floating in the room, you know. So that didn't freak him out because he's accustomed to those kind of... And he said to the teacher, he said, "Sir, I have been your student since I was 14 years, and all these years I've meditated and I've done what you've taught me, and I've never seen anything inside of myself. Nothing that is to make me feel spiritual." And his teacher said to him, "Get the heck out of here, don't you ever come back." Well, that blew his cool. He walked out, torn up, a man 65 years of age. You can imagine how old the teacher is. It's like a little boy hanging around in the room, floating around like a balloon. And then he said, he sat down, that's what he said, he sat down there, and out of his love for his teacher again, he decided to close his eyes to meditate. And the moment he did that, his whole head was like 4th of July. And he said, eyes open, eyes shut, I couldn't stop it, and I saw faces upon faces of people who were in it and people who will get into it. And he says, "I saw you." And that was the end of the conversation. And I said to him, "And I saw you." So there's a statement in your Bible, "Many are called, but few are chosen." Or chosen. Meditation is a process, not a goal, whereby you're using the mind or the mental energy, that's the fact that you do organize your body to close it and regulate it. And the energy is the breath. And it does its own directing. That's why Jesus would say, "I of myself can do nothing, but the Father in me does everything." So oxygen is running the show. You don't have a big fat ego after a while. It's done gone on the drain. You can understand Albert Cliff, when he met me years ago, he says, "Adano, your method is very harsh. Can I say, let go, let God?" I say, "Yeah." He said, "Then I'll write a book." If you find the book, read it. Let go, let God. That's his way of describing this particular process. It directs your individuality, that's your own personal self. Nobody can meditate for you, that means nobody can breathe for you. And you have to spend the time to experience it. So you don't envy nobody, and they have a right to hurt themselves. And if you think of Jesus and all the great teachers, they don't come and tell you how to run your life. You have to go find them when you're sick. And not before then they do something for you, right? They don't even want to make wine when the mother says, "We don't have no wine." He says, "My time ain't come, don't bug me." Right? Because they don't interfere with your individuality, simply because creative intelligence put this process together without its consent, endowed it with individuality, in order for it to make restitution by its own capabilities. It's a very wonderful process. It may be rough, but it has one reward. I call the reward longevity lifestyle. You can hang around till midnight eternity if you want. Or be my guest, go back in the soil. But that's the facts. I can't force nobody. Brother Jesus wouldn't force either. That's what it is. And it directs from inside your thought activity, because these thought activities are not yours, number one. If you look back throughout the centuries of time, You were nothing but a brand new computer when you were created and just plugged in with the electrical cord, but no program. So the first pair of people didn't have any program. They had to be programmed. And so what was the program? Go forth, Xerox yourself, and have dominion over the universe. But don't do this and don't do that, right? Knowing fully well what? If they ain't got no program, how the hell are they going to do anything? So you got to tell them don't do, so they generate their own reaction. Very wonderful process, but very painful too. But that's how we came. These thought processes are set up for us to learn that, as one poet says, no pain, no gain. If we don't have confrontation, we don't develop immunity. And the biggest disease today is what? Deficiency in it. Because we don't have challenges to generate. And if we have the challenges to generate and rise above, then the immunity gets stronger. And all the teachings are only to increase your vitality and your capacity to cope. Now, the world will give you peace 6 feet under the ground, according to Brother Jesus. He offers you peace that's entirely different. His peace is to cope moment to moment. He ain't offering you 6 feet under the ground and may rest in peace with a piece of rock over your head saying, rest in peace. He's offering you this. Pick up your 2 feet and walk. It's the best yoga posture there is in the world. It's called Mahasana. Doing your own thing, like Brother Sinatra, I do it my way. But all these men are waking up to the reality of what they are. The thinking activity within all of us and transforming from a sensory, intellectual nature to an intuitive ability. That is, to know independent of the senses. And today we call that the radar in you. Turn on your radar, man, and get on the ball. Right? That's exactly what it is, because when you close your eyes and you start locking in, you're going to be forced to look at images or geometry that come from the 5 senses, like photography. You're going to relate to it as memory or associated patterns because you're programmed to act by the parent and the environment. But then you have to transcend it to your own integrity, to your highest good. That's what they call to the glory of God in you. Your creative nature must emerge from your intuitive self. Otherwise, you're selling yourselves short. But it starts off with the observation and ends up with the oneness. That's the uniqueness of the process. Because you observe and then you become one, you relive the experience of a sperm bonding with an ovum, leaving the cellular connection to return back to the atomic reaction in your cells. That realization is free man or woman, Lord of yourselves. You can function in this environment with your convex vision, not your concave vision. Concave vision is to see at the wall. Convex vision is see through the wall. What did you feel? You felt something? Strange, eh? I saw right through your whole mechanism, down into time. But that happened to me years ago, and I don't boast about it. I'm not here to show off. I'm here to help you accept what you are. Convex vision is very scientific. Concave vision is looking at things. Convex vision is looking through things. So you may call it what? Third eye vision or clairvoyant. These are all the different ways to refer to convex vision. And the optometrist will vouch it's convex because the lenses on your eyes are concave in reference to the environment, and if it became convex, it automatically make things transparent. So your own mechanism is set up for you to have a hologramic vision of what you are. But you have to tap it in yourself. The journey is very simple. The technique is very simple. But no one can do it for you. You got to do it for yourself. So if you close your eyes and you see a light inside, that's the first step in the journey. You may call that light the actual checkout point at an airport. Years ago, the passenger and the mechanics all had to go through the checkout point, and the pilot was allowed to walk around. But then when they found the pilot was a phony, today no one gets around. We don't condemn nobody with their psychic experiences. We're not here to condemn them. But as Brother Jesus would say, he who doesn't come through by the door is a thief. That means if you don't come through this process, and by any other method, you're fooling yourself. But he's not going to punish you. But you'll confront yourself in the end as to where you are. If you got locked in to certain behavioral patterns, thinking they're the answers to the truth, we're not here to condemn it. That would be unfair. It's there to exist. It's there for us to fall in and make our mistakes. Just as much as a hole is in the ground when you drive your car, it's up to you if you want to puncture your tire or get around it. That's your option. So therefore, these things are there en route to the reality of what you are. They have to be there, otherwise it wouldn't be practical to test it. So this creative intelligence has developed many traps, radar traps, to see if we will go through the process without panic. Now, if you close your eyes and you look inside, and you work the journey in, 9 times out of 10, you'd make it back to that ignition. So, it's not no magic. It's not nothing to be afraid of. And it's very factual as to what you're trying to accomplish. You are regaining the facts of how your body is put together as a sperm bonding with an ovum, igniting into its atomic nature in order to warrant your convex vision to see through the structure of matter, right into the core of what you are. There is no devil sitting there waiting for you, but you're your own devil if you panic. And if you fall asleep on the job, then you can't blame nobody. That's your devil. But if you do fall asleep and you survive the panic, the best thing will happen to you, you'll wake up horny and start all over again. Daddy O made it that way. Go forth, multiply, and have dominion over the universe. He just own it. But he left you to be horny enough to start all over again. So however we come back in the waking state, this sensation is there inside of us. It sounds comical, but it's not. It's actually how it's set up for us to realize. And if you want to try it for a few seconds, I'll be glad to go with you. Okay? All right. Now, when you close the eyes, don't try to analyze what you see. It's not an analytical process. There's no analysis going on in meditation. It's like you're in a movie house, you paid your money, and you're sitting down to see the movie. And Dracula can't bite the audience. He can only bite the actor on the screen. So if you see things approaching you that may threaten you, don't panic, please. None of these images can do a doggone thing. So, other than your own fixation. So what you're doing is watching it inside of your cellular structure, where it finally dissipates into a singular light, having no geometry. And as soon as that light appears, having no geometry, give it love. That's why it says, love the Lord with all your mind, all your heart, all your strength and soul. And your neighbor is yourself. So he ain't got no more or less. They're in the same predicament. So don't look at the other person, look at your own self. So okay? So just close your eyes and just watch. Now partially open the eyes, not completely, partially, so it's like a half open, half closed state. And let the whole body be permeated with the natural bliss of the cells. And observe that this whole body is performing osmotic breathing, absorbing oxygen directly from the environment, feeding yourself directly. Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. Your cells are osmotically absorbing oxygen with minimal action of your nostrils. Now direct the feeling to any part of your anatomy that you have been hurt in, and command it to resolve its condition inside of you. You are in control. You are the driver of your own car. And the greatest mantra in this universe, or prayer, is only one word, and I'll repeat it, and you'll recognize it, and you'll see it. It's very intimate to you. Thanks. You heard it? Make it intimate to your nature. Because breath is given as a gift to your form. But the form never said thanks until now. In full consciousness, when the form says thanks, creative intelligence immediately merges with you. So, like Brother Jesus would say, I and the Father are one. You see me, you see the Father. Now gradually open the eyes, but don't move. Try to keep the feeling of the cells osmotically drawing from the air around you. And if you feel a glow on your skin, and if you smell the fragrance of the rose in the room, fine. Many of you may hear music inside of your skin. These are all your own internal gifts. Enjoy it. It's yours. It's not somebody sitting on a throne. It's a principle that holds you together if you recognize it and understand and give thanks. You can hang around till midnight eternity. Thank you. Before we end it up, I want to write a statement on the board which you will be experiencing every day from now on as evidence of creative consciousness directing. Timing of the daily events in your life is the evidence that creative intelligence is directing your existence. You are the walking miracle. You don't have to perform any. If you recognize moment to moment timing. Of the daily events, that is moment to moment, how these events fall. They are pearls of great price. They cannot be rehearsed. They're unanticipated, and they're ever new opportunities. They're unrehearsed. They're ever new. They're unanticipated opportunity. No matter what the event is, it's an opportunity, and it's the evidence that this creative intelligence is directing your existence. And you'll be surprised how you'll get through each incident by the skin of the nose when others are fatalistically dissolved. I can only vouch for my own self. Each instant in my own personal life is evidence for me that I made it by the skin of my nose. You know, when you fall off a building 30 feet, you don't have much to talk about and you're smashed up. So, I love you, Daddy. And I thank you for taking the ship. I love you all.
Thank you.
Yeah. But that you can copy it and keep it because it is yours to use. Timing of the daily events in your life is the evidence that creative intelligence is directing your existence. It doesn't like any type of tearing down of any other person's belief system. And it frees you to live in the now. And everyone is entitled to their own mistakes. So don't prevent a person from stumbling over, bumping their nose, until they ask you what to do with it. You see, that's what they call compassion. The higher form of love. But we must love everybody, no matter how murky sometimes it is, till they ask for help. Because if they don't make their mistakes, they're not going to appreciate it. I know it's rough, but we're placed in on a planet, of all the planets on this galaxy, there isn't the opportunity to experience what we call immortality, or the diamond body. See, this is a carbon material. All other life forms that preceded us that we have used and don't remember, such as silicon, sulfur, and methane, their highest nature cannot make them permanent. Only the carbon-based body. But this is given to us as a compensation for our mistakes, to work through the uterine canal, to phase out our viciousness, to be winners on our own effort. Take the challenge of the umbilical cord, to be cut, to be bred, not knowing if your father and mother has a lousy role to kick you out before. But that's their compensation. And when you come through this carbon-based body, the option of it being permanent as a diamond is the degree of pain you can handle. So, no pain, no gain. It sounds crude, but it's there for everyone to go through. But one thing is interesting about it. There is no condemnation for any act, except don't fall asleep on the job. Okay? Good.
Born.
Huh?
Do you give yourself permission to be born? Do you make a pact? What is your soul whether you're born?
Yes, no, maybe. Each answer is valid for the being to encounter. Then the decision is resolved if all three answers are lived. Then we will see that none takes priority. Yes, you can give yourself the right to be born. That's valid because you can exercise your ego and your willpower to push through to be born and where you want to be born. But you didn't make your environment. It came before you, so you can't choose how to be born. The environment is set up for you to fall into the slot. So no, you don't choose where you're born. You think you choose it, only to find out the slot came up for you to fall into, to experience that particular birth, and it may be beautiful or it may be pretty lousy. But that's the slot that came up for you.
Predestination.
Well, an architect cannot design a house to be lived in if you don't draw it first, right? And no matter how he builds and draws the blueprint of the best bathtub, you can't take a bath until you build it. So you can't take a bath in a blueprint bathtub, right? And he wouldn't know if the bathtub is going to leak until the plumber put it together, even after you design it. But then you could be pretty angry if when you turn it on after you bought it, it starts running over the floor and leaking as an occupant. You see? So this is where we say conditions are like that. Then the third condition may be, if you have had certain death experiences and the offer is presented to you to pick up the broken body and work with all the problems of the anguish in that broken body, or to move on to a new body and have the memory turned down, but you see the possibilities of the new body of what you can become if you go to it. Now this is the option that can be there. I was thrown into that option. Between my broken body when I fell off the building and seeing the other body where I could be born and what I could be. And in a strange way, I decided to take up my broken body, because what came into my mind is Brother Jesus' statement, pick up your cross and follow me. Suddenly, those words predominated my desire to run from the broken body into the new one. Years went by. I met someone right in California, and they were doing exactly what I was supposed to be doing, but they told me the person that is born exactly at that time in that part of the world is his cousin, who is studying to be a business manager and is visiting some folks in Santa Barbara, California. And that this man, who is his cousin, was the exact age when I had the incident of falling off the building, and was born at the exact time in Ethiopia when I fell off the building. Now, had I chose not to take my broken body, I would be given the Ethiopian body to be born in exactly at the same time of the fall, and then I would be grown up to come to America to study business administration, to go back and run my father's business. So I met the young man's cousin, and these things tied in, and this was many years after. And during the entire time I fell off the building, I didn't want to pick up my body. But when I decided to pick up my body, from my navel I saw a string into a kite flying in the sky. And my face was in the kite, and on the tail of the kite I saw many faces. To this day, over 30 years, I've met those faces. And many people have met me in their dreams. But I've seen you before, but I'm not here to boast about it. You wouldn't be in the room if you weren't on the tail of the kite. Put it that way. I said you wouldn't be in the room if you were not on the tail of the kite. There are a lot of people out there, but I've come to Ohio many years ago, and I had a gallbladder attack right in Ohio, and I had to have an operation. So I've been here back and forth in my own, and here I'm glad to be brought here by Louise. But I've seen you folks, and I know you're on your way to butterflyhood. Yes.
What did you do to have this experience of conception, I guess, that you experienced when you almost died?
I was the man who asked Yogananda, where can I buy 100 books on God? And he wrote me the letter that says, what is all the books in all the world in comparison to 15 minutes silence in the soul? I thought he wrote S-O-U-L. But it's when I had to fall off the building, he went on cosmic vacation in 1952, and I had the experience in 1955, 3 years after, in the month of June. And I thought he wrote the word S-O-U-L. It's when I fell off the building and went through the experience, and I went back and looked up my old records, I saw the word as S-O-I-L. And the U wasn't printed properly, it was an I. That's how he wrote, in the way he wrote. And he's a fellow, and he writes you a letter. And one time I wrote him a letter, I said, what does a person need to do in order to warrant spiritual development? And he wrote me a letter, and picture this. Every unit of space on the letter is covered, both sides of the paper, with one word. And when I look at the word, and I can't believe it, the whole thing, and the one word, you wouldn't believe what it is. Frustration. Until you're frustrated, you're not ready for God. But that was the letter I got. And I laughed because you'd have so many questions to ask, and they would never be resolved in yourself till you're totally frustrated. You have no more questions to ask, then you're ready for God. And then when you do discover what He is, it really blows your cool. It's the creative power, yes. The respect is there, but the greatest respect is the thanks, because it put you together, it became you, and provided you the gift of breath. It takes away all your egotism, but that doesn't say your egotism doesn't have a value. It is not to show off with the egotism, to feel better than others with it. It is to help others to find themselves with it. So, no greater love than he who would lay down his life for his fellow man is a modern-day Superman. The idea or these principles of the hero in man is more of a valid truth, that every human being is a cosmic nursemaid or babysitter. When you realize yourself who you are or what you are, you end up being a cosmic babysitter for the others. So you have to see them grow, and because they are your cells in the atomic structure, but their individuality allows them to grow through the process, and then you begin to see it's your own self at different levels back and forth. So at one level I see all of you as individuals. At another level I see myself looking back at myself, and when that happened years ago, I couldn't accept it. The leaf on the tree was looking at me and laughing. I was and an ant crawling, and I'm on the ground lying down, you know, and look at the ant, and then he's climbing up on my finger. And the funny thing is, you know it's an ant, but why is an ant laughing? You really think you're schizophrenic because an ant is laughing, but you're not. Each form of life is performing a function of self-remembrance to the cellular structure. That's what's so beautiful about the process. And you're entitled to it. The only thing, as I say, Big Daddy-O and all your brothers and sisters will tell you, don't fall asleep on the job. And they can't breathe for you. But they'll encourage you all the way to get to the reality of what you are. And once you make it, you're free. You see, Yukteswar preferred to remain his old-looking face, while Yogananda took on a nice boy look, and Jesus and all the rest of it. You have the option. You see, there are 24 gifts. 3 are recorded for man, and the 21 is some of what Superman seems to be doing in his science fiction. But they're all there inside of your body. The non-decomposing body, like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, that's valid. To leave the body for others to experiment and prove that you ain't dead. I wonder how the hell you don't rot. Then you can not leave your body and wonder where the heck you went, like Brother Jesus. And so even the shroud is a phony now, you know, so he ain't around still, we can't prove he ain't here. That's the second option. The third option, and Kabir, all these men did it too. The third option is you can pop in now and then, let them look at you, visit with them, eat with them, but they can't photograph you. See? And then the other 21, you can pick up and do like a few of the things that Superman has and more than that. They're all inside. So, cosmic travel or time travel through the cosmos is set up for this spaceship. This is a cosmic spaceship already. But it can only accomplish it from going inside. Outside is designed to validate, so we'll build equipment to travel around and look to validate. That's the entertainment end of it. But the actual process inside is still for everybody. Because once you master the inside, you got the outside. There's a story. A bishop went to an island because he heard there were some monks living on the island, and he wanted to convert them. So when he arrived there, he saw these three guys praying, and what they were praying is, "We are three, thou art three." Now, you know, that sounds kind of odd, a prayer like that. And so this bishop decided to teach them Hail Mary, Our Father, and all the different prayers that were necessary for them to learn to be good Christians. And then he left them to go back to his island where he came from. Halfway across the river, he saw these three guys holding their hand, running, "Please, Father, tell us the prayers, we forgot it." Well, he heard them saying, "We are three, thou art three, please tell us the prayers, we forgot it." He said, "Please, go back. You're already there." And these are not dead people, they were actually living people. So you see what I'm talking about? Once you come to the internal recognition of what the thing is, and they never wrote it down. If they did, it would have been different. The actual journey that you're going through inside is the memory of the sperm going to the ovum to bond, and then the ignition reaction at that moment into the atomic structure of what you are. And they call it 4th of July. So, and the light is shining in the darkness, you wouldn't, in those days, it would be hard to comprehend a sperm and an ovum because nobody had any kind of a way to evaluate it. Today we know what they're talking about, that the cellular structure is containing elements, and a journey was accomplished through a uterine canal to make you what you are, and you went through the process to be born. Now it's to relive the atomic structural experience. It's nothing to be afraid of, because there's no devil there to cap you up. The biggest devil in there is your own mouth. So you yourself will make him look anything you want him to look like. So if you don't panic while the process, because if you were to see the journey of the sperm to the ovum, the many sperms that are racing, it's quite a fantastic journey. It's every vicious act is being motivated and moved, but it's inside. Till the one that gets to the ovum, and the ovum locks down. There are many there, but one is locked down on. That's how your skull fits into your vertebra. So it's not the vertebra fitting onto the skull. So then it elongates and patterns out. And we don't grow. That's another erroneous function. The sperm bonds with the ovum, and atomic ignition takes place like a switch in a car, and we dilate and constrict proportionally to the rhythms of the earth on its axis, to where you're supposed to dilate to. So I dilated to this size. My ancestors are a little taller than me, and I didn't dilate as far as they were. So I was called the shorty in the group. So, but my father would laugh at me today. Now he said, "Well, I wish I were doing what you're doing." But these are the things you look at yourself in terms of dilation and constriction. Wherever you come out, these are the patterns you have to live and work with. So if you're born in the month of March, and they call you Pisces, right? Don't panic. You're born in the month of April and they call you an Aries, don't panic. You may not get along with the Taurian and me, but don't panic either. Well, whoever you get along with, fine. Most important, get along with yourself. Again, I must repeat, the only thing you can do wrong is falling asleep on the job. There is no sin or anything like that. It's falling asleep on the job. That's the only thing you can do wrong. All the rest is there as a big movie for us to live through, to understand what we are. But you can't create the ultimate principle if you don't test it. So that has to be accepted, that the test that you're living and the trials that you're living and the different time frames you're in, these are all necessary for your immunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.